Mawawalan ng pag-asa.
May pag-asa.
Malapit na ang ginhawa.
May ginhawa.
Mawawala ang pandemya.
Mawawala na rin yan.
It's gonna be okay na.
Okay na, okay na, okay na. Nandyan na ang bakuna. Magpapaturok ka ba? Subilin na ang pandemya. Magpapaturok ka ba? Nandyan na ang bakuna. Magpapaturok ka ba? Subilin na ang pandemya. Magpapaturok ka ba?
You are watching the multi-awarded Radio Bandido TV on channel 224 Sky Cable and TV Plus boxes. Simulcast on DZRJ 8:10 a.m. Informing, advising, and entertaining the Filipinos and OFWs around the world. Streaming live on www.facebook.com/DZRJ 8:10 a.m. or on YouTube, channel RJAM News. To all Teleradio Bandido viewers and listeners, you can now watch Teleradio Bandido on our new YouTube channel, RJAM News. Hit the subscribe button and like the video. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified when a new video gets uploaded. Don't miss out on our dynamite lineup.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Flatten the Fear with CDCPH. It's another day of talking about COVID-19. Ngayong araw, we have a guest. He looks like a foreigner, pero magugulat kayo. Hindi to foreigner. Tiga dito sa atin to. Nagtatago lang sa Espanya ngayon. At hindi Espanya extension, nagtatago dun sa Spain. He's not actually, hindi nagtatago naman. He's, I think, on a vacation in Spain. And perhaps Dr. Agbayani, who's always with us at CDCPH, you can introduce Mr. Manolo Gonzalez.
Yes, I'm happy to let you know Mr. Gonzalez more. We learned about him because he wrote us an email through PAASE, which is the Philippine American Academy of Scientists and Engineers. And he happens to be an engineer. And we received an email. He wanted to help us by creating this format of getting research data for our ivermectin patients. So I was this Spanish-sounding guy who lives in Spain, wanting to help us Filipinos about our research in ivermectin. And he's an engineer. So sabi ko, kakaiba. Anyway, I got in touch with him, but he was the one who got in touch with our Dr. Dalmacion, because he apparently is from the Philippines. And welcome, Manolo. Thank you for accepting our invitation for just this short interview.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine. And how can we not help our kababayans when all of us have grown up there? We learned the language, we learned the people, and all we've ever done in the Philippines is help one another. I can just tell you, how many times I've had the chance to sit down and eat a meal with some very poor people. Yung nasiraan yung kotse ko biglang pumasok ako dyan sa tabi-tabi lang, lunchtime, wala akong makain. I get invited to the house. Saan nangyayari yan? Sa Pilipinas lang pwedeng ganyan. So, with this Bayanihan spirit, kailangan, we have to, we all have to put in our what we can to help everybody. And this is the reason why I wrote the letter to the PASE, so that we try and do something different.
Pero ano, Manolo, how did you hear PASE? Are you a member of PASE?
No, I actually heard about a fireside chat that they were going to conduct, listening, and they were going to discuss ivermectin. And one of my doctor classmates, was joining it. And so I heard about it, and I said, well, these people are in contact with doctors who are in favor of ivermectin and against ivermectin. And I said, this is, because what we need to do, I reckon that ang kailangan natin gawin is we have to be able to talk to not just one doctor, not just the doctors nakakampi, but the doctors who are kalaban or who think different. I think this is what is important.
Ayun. So Manolo, you started your interest in ivermectin. Where did the interest start in finding out or about this?
I will explain. As an engineer, we are taught to analyze. Okay, that's the training we were taught at school. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes we have subjects that, for example, in design, you have an exam, and those exams are open books, open any book you like. And the reason they do this is because the answer of that question is not in any of the books.
Okay.
So you don't have an answer. You don't have an answer in any of the books. So the professor prepares the question so that the answer is not in one book. So what happens is you start analyzing the data.
Correct.
And you are unable to even understand what the question is because there is so much data. So when there is so much data, you don't even know where to look. You don't even, so the problem becomes identifying the problem. So this is how I got into studying ivermectin. And how did this happen? Before becoming an engineer, I wanted to be a dentist. Mm-hmm. And as a dentist, my first semester at UP Diliman was, a subject called zoology. Zoology is a subject that all doctors study, all. So you study about viruses, and when you study about viruses, you learn that the only way to deal with the virus is to isolate yourself from it. And if you don't isolate yourself from it, it will get you. But it has no cure. So knowing this, when I heard the experts at the World Health Organization, renowned doctors, supposed experts, PhDs, come out saying, there's no need to protect yourself. There's no need to space out. There's no need to have space. You don't have to wear a mask. I said, bakit ganon? So I start saying that something's wrong here. So the governments in Europe start telling us, there's no need to worry. Go ahead and, they allowed the pandemic to happen.
Okay.
They allowed the pandemic to happen. So immediately I start questioning why. So I start campaigning for people to wear a mask here. And of course, people say, you're out of your mind. But soon enough, people start understanding that we have to wear a mask. But by this time, we are very sick already. There's a lot of people sick, and there's a lot of people dying, and the hospitals begin to get full. So that's the first thing I see. So
Wait, Manolo. I'll cut you just for a while. I did the same thing. I was pushing for masks to the Philippines. I said we should nationalize the masks. That was around April.
I remember.
But before that, let's introduce si Mari Kaimo. Mari Kaimo's here. Hi, Mari.
Mari Kaimo. He'll join us. Ayun. Ready na pala si Mari Kaimo. Biglang, you're muted, Mari, or your mic is not in front of you. So we can't hear you. There it is.
Sorry. No, this is Mari Kaimo, one of our spokesperson.
This is my cousin.
There
Mari,
he is.
Mari and I are cousins.
Oh,
That's right.
small world and
There we
small world. Ayan. So anyway,
Okay.
we were on the issue of how Manolo found his way to ivermectin and how the logic behind all these things. He will talk about later on about why people are so against it and why is logic lost, I guess, in all this. It seems that COVID is not only a sickness that affects your breathing, it also affects your logic. I don't know. I don't know
Dr.
why.
Quijano says it affects the common sense.
It
People lose
affects the
common sense.
common sense too. Okay, Manolo. It's your ball again. We were talking about masks, and Iggy had the same trend of thought, no? That you're finding solutions, and being an engineer, you look at the problem, and you have different researches, and you put the data together, and then you analyze, and then you make a decision, correct? On how to
That's
tackle the problem.
That's exactly it. So you start seeing world immediately after the World Health Organization says don't wear a mask. We start hearing our governments say there's no need to wear a mask. There's no need to do anything. Go out, etc. So they support the pandemic to happen. They want it to happen, and you say why? What is the logic behind it? And then you start seeing that all of these governments start spending like crazy. Everybody starts buying all kinds of equipment that they don't need instead of buying something as basic as masks. Why did not the governments in Europe give out masks for free? In my neighborhood, I bought material to manufacture masks. I got people to sew masks. So we were giving it away. Because we, like I was saying, this is the first line of defense. Don't get near the virus. And so as we go along, we start seeing other governments like Japan, Vietnam, Taiwan, Korea. We have New Zealand and we have Australia, and they do contrary to everybody else. What's the first thing they do? They close their borders and they follow strict quarantine, and they're able to control it. And these are the countries today that practically are COVID-free. Take a look at the statistics, look at them, no COVID. Right now, between Australia and New Zealand, the flights are free. You can fly from one country to another, and there's no limitations whatsoever. Why? Because they're free of COVID. You try going to Taiwan today, and the first thing you do as soon as you arrive is you get into quarantine. Why? Because they're COVID-free, and they don't want anybody to bring COVID back into them.
Okay.
So that's a different approach.
Sige.
So the question is, why is it that the majority of worldwide governments do the opposite of what is logical, which is what these countries did? Vietnam, for example, has 97 million people, almost the size of the Philippines, and they have no deaths.
You know
And
why?
they have,
I think they don't count it.
sure they do.
I don't know. No, just kidding.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
I know. So sure they do. So as you go along, you start listening to smart people here, doctors, people with experience, respected people, and they say, as soon as there's talk of the vaccines, and they start telling us a story, which is, in Europe, they talk about get yourself immunized. Get yourself immunized? But you start reading about the vaccines, and you realize that the vaccines don't immunize. They protect. Protect from what? Protect from getting majorly sick or getting or dying. So why is it that they're confusing or adding the word get yourself immunized when these vaccines don't make us immune? Immune in Tagalog is walang talab.
Walang talab yung virus kasi immune ka na nga.
Immune. Okay? Now, if I am immunized, walang talab si virus sa akin, I cannot get sick.
Correct.
If I cannot get sick, I cannot transmit. If I cannot transmit, ubos yung virus.
Siyempre, walang pupuntahan hindi ba?
Okay, exactly. So that's the key. The key is what? Why are they selling us something that doesn't guarantee cutting the transmission? So
Immunization, yeah.
Oh, kaya
you
lang,
see, so
ang sinasabi nila, Manolo, it won't make you immune, pero pag nakakuha ka ng virus, hindi masyadong malakas yung tama sa'yo. Oh.
It will
Okay.
prevent symptoms.
Oh, it will prevent
okay.
symptoms.
So
yung ba?
therefore, why confuse us with the word immunize?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, the use of the word immunity was purposely reconditioned to mean something else, because we all know what immunity means. So don't give us now this kabalbalan that we're going to get immunized when it doesn't really make us immune.
No, look, let me just play devil's advocate here for a minute. And what if the expectation at the onset was that there would be immunization, but when the vaccines finally came out, they weren't quite that? Maybe they were thinking positively.
Well, that is correct. That could be it. But if you like all of us here, and I'm sure Dr. Iggy will be able to tell us, I went and said, let's study what happened. Let's study what happened when they made the other vaccines. And I looked at the polio vaccines. Like everybody else, I just started to read about the polio vaccines, and I determined by studying it that they were able to eradicate polio precisely because these vaccines were able to cut the transmission. Because the polio virus turns out was also like this one. It would mutate a lot. It was one of them, rapidly mutating viruses. So it was really problematic. But what stopped it? What stopped it was these vaccines were able to cut the transmission because people really became immune. So if I couldn't get sick, I could not transmit the disease. So they started giving us this story of herd immunity. Sounds nice. Sounds beautiful. But somebody says, no, we need to get 70% vaccinated to achieve herd immunity. So hang on a minute. You can do that? According to what logic? According to what statistics? The reason I ask this question is because if I get sick, if I'm vaccinated, but I still can get sick and I can still transmit the disease, herd immunity is impossible.
Right.
Because I'm still transmitting the disease.
Does that make sense? Doc Iggy, does that make sense?
Transmittability is key. Dapat talaga hindi matransmit. Because that's what herd immunity means. You create some kind of barriers to protect
Correct.
people who will be affected by the disease, who will die from the disease. So you don't have to get 100%. You just make these sort of parang invisible walls.
If you will allow me an explanation, let's discuss this very quickly for us to understand. Imagine that we have 100 cows, okay? All right, and they tell us, okay, we're gonna vaccinate 70% of the cows. So we vaccinate 70% of those cows. But it turns out that these cows, the 70% that we vaccinated, can still
Transmit.
get infected, and therefore they still can transmit it. So that means that the 30% remaining are still going to get sick.
Yeah.
So that herd
Makes sense,
immunity, and that herd immunity is impossible because those 30 cows that now became sick can now pass on the new variant to the original cows. So this is ongoing.
So next year you have to have another shot.
Not even next year.
So-
We already get variants
A few
now.
months, you have another job.
What is this? This is just fantastic business for the vaccine makers.
Right.
Isn't this the kind of business we all want to get into? You do your job once, and repeat business.
Yeah.
So that was the part that I said, huh? They're gonna tell me to put on a vaccine when the vaccine does not cut the transmission. And I've done some work here as well. Okay, I have looked at just the numbers, and I've looked at the top. Right now, we have on top of the people who have fully vaccinated. There's Seychelles. Seychelles has close to 60% of its population with
What is this? Seychelles? What is this?
Seychelles.
Seychelles.
Seychelles. Yeah, Seychelles is an island. It's an island
Okay.
in the Indian Ocean. It's
Okay.
it's a small country, small population, but it's a good place to look at
Okay.
because it's controlled. Okay?
Okay.
They have now something like 60% of the people vaccinated.
Mhm.
You know what's funny? Their new cases is still going up. Since they started the vaccination, it's still going up. It
Sounds
hasn't
familiar.
come down. So if these vaccines were really truly effective, why is it that their new cases continue to climb?
Because the people are pasaway. Manolo.
No,
Let me, let me,
that's
let
what
me
our
finish.
government always says. I know
Let
the
me finish.
spokesperson always says.
Let me finish. But
Okay.
even if they're pasaway, even if they're, you know, simpaticos and they want to hug and kiss each other, okay? Even if they're like us, okay? But if they're not transmitting the disease, what's the problem?
Mhm.
Di ba?
Mm.
So 60% already tells us bakit ganun. Now let's continue looking at the numbers. Look at Monaco, the same thing.
Okay.
The new so you're now seeing that of all the countries, Chile is another country. They have more and more people vaccinated, but those numbers still go up. So the only country that has shown that that the rate of new contagion has come down is Israel so far, and they're at about 60% as well. But here's the thing: in Israel, the people still wear a mask. The people are still keeping themselves away. So we don't know yet if the vaccines are effective. So let's wait and see for when Israel takes their masks off, and let's watch to see if those numbers stay down. That's when we'll know if they're good or not. Funny.
I don't even think you need to look at Israel. If Seychelles and that island there says so, that people are already 60% vaccinated, and Monaco, which is what's the population of Monaco? A couple of
Monaco
million.
is very
Very
small.
small. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Very
very small. It's still it's like a clinical trial, isn't it, Doc Iggy? It's like a small sample size that seems to have the same trend. And that is not negligible. Is it negligible, Monaco and Seychelles, Doc Iggy?
You look at like a small community, and you easier to monitor to see their patterns easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of Monaco. Same thing with any country when they analyze community behavior. When they found a variant, they check at smaller groups, not the whole country, kasi you can't see the impact.
Oo nga.
So that's why Israel is so easy to monitor, to measure. Kasi they're one of the most let's face it, para talaga silang they are warlike. They're constantly in war.
Yeah.
So the citizens there follow.
Okay. So but sige.
I'm sorry. I
Sige,
just looked
Manolo.
at I just looked at some of the data I prepared because I studied this a bit. So Seychelles, they have had the upward trend ever since they got food. They have 56% of their population have gone up. Okay? That's Seychelles. Chile is 32% fully vaccinated, and they've gone up. And the people say like Mario was just saying, they're pasaway also because they're like Filipinos. Bahrain also has 32%, and again daily cases have gone up. Monaco, we already explained that cases gone up, and now it's coming down. So we don't know yet. So the only ones among these people where it's happened is Israel. But let's wait for Israel to remove their masks, and let's see if they get infected or not. And finally, let's now compare how ivermectin has worked. Okay, because we're seeing this, and let's compare to see what happens. And one place to look at the data, and it's really interesting, is the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic started vaccinating in January 15. Okay, and to date, they have 9.2% of the population fully vaccinated. Remember the date, 15th of January, and today, 29 April,
Wait,
9.2%.
wait, Manalo, kasi this morning I had a little bit of parang debate with the friend of Francis Abraham, Dr. Pineda.
Oh,
And I mentioned Czech Republic, and it's going down. And you know what she said? Hello, Dr.
What?
Bayani.
Go ahead.
Their vaccination is increasing. That's why it's going down. Sabi niya sa akin.
But let's talk about this. Let's talk about this because this is really a good point.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, I use Czech Republic for ivermectin as a good place to see
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I studied the graphs. I studied the numbers of the Czech Republic, and I'll explain to you why it's completely ivermectin. Remember this date, the date of the vaccines, 15th of January, to date, right now, right this minute, their total numbers, total percentage of vaccination is 9.2%. Now, they start with the ivermectin on the 8th of March. The 8th of March. On the 9th of March, the day after they start, they have the second highest death rate. So the day after ivermectin is introduced, their death rate is at its second highest ever. Okay? And from that date onwards, so from the time that ivermectin is introduced, the upward graph goes like this. It changes tendency immediately.
yeah.
Okay? So that change of tendency from practically one day to the next, okay, tells us one thing. Why the sudden change? Why the abrupt change in the tendency? Because the ivermectin starts to be, because in one day, thousands of people can take ivermectin. So those people who are really sick don't die. So we see that immediately, that change of graph. Now here's the part.
Hmm.
Hello, I'll show you the graph. I
looked at the.
Can you put it on screen, Manolo? We can still talk.
I can.
Go ahead.
Do you have
Go ahead,
the
Iggy.
permission
Go
to
ahead and put it
share?
up. Now, here's the thing.
Iggy? There.
Yeah, there you
Okay.
Yeah, I have. Here it is.
Okay.
Sige,
Now,
Manolo.
now here's the nice part. The nice part is it immediately drops. Okay, and in only 7 weeks, from the second highest, which they have, the second highest dead that they have
Hmm.
on March 9, okay, on April
see it?
29.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see
You have
it?
to go.
There
You
it
have to
is.
go more to the. You have to go more to the right. You have to go more to the right.
Okay.
Hindi ko na magawa yan.
So anyways, so
But
anyway,
here is ano eh, oh.
Okay.
March 2.
Wow.
This is the.
going
This
down.
is. You have to look at the. You have to look more to the right. Sandri lang. Let me just. Okay, got it. The graph is fine. Can you put the graph back on, please? Let
Okay.
me just try to work on it. Iggy, would you please put the graph back on?
mhm.
Okay. If you look at the graph, that's a pronounced change.
Yes.
Immediately the day after that, not that. Sige,
Yeah.
up there,
This is-
up there. Okay.
This is where they change it. This is the time they change.
It's because right at that point there on March 9, okay,
Yeah, March
they,
30.
they have 235 dead, which is the second highest number of dead. Okay,
Okay.
from the high. So
This is
immediately-
cases, Cases
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Go to the dead. Do you have the dead? The dead. the dead
Sorry,
case?
I don't have
Take a
it.
minute.
Okay, anyway.
Do you have it?
No, I don't.
Anyway, the dead case is they have on March 9, 235 dead. Okay, but as soon as they give that ivermectin to thousands of people who are sick.
Yeah.
So immediately there's a change in the graph. The
Death
graph
rate.
immediately comes down.
Oh, death
So,
rate. You're talking about death rate. Yeah.
Death rate. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, what happens is, on April 29, from 235, that graph keeps coming down. So on
Okay.
April 29, they only had 33 dead.
Wow.
So they reduce it sevenfold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 7 weeks after, there is
Uh-huh.
only 1/7 of the dead that they had when
Yeah.
they started.
Okay.
Can you believe that? So that's-
Exactly. Pero ang sinasabi, tama nga, yung cases, yung death can it be attributed to the vaccines? Sabi ni Ethel Pineda, nag-roll out rin ng vaccines. Kaya bumaba yung cases. Pwede ba yun, Doc Iggy? Anong sagot mo doon?
I'm talking of the death rate. The vaccines have no papel in the death rate.
No.
Okay?
Okay.
You will understand why.
If meron man, it would be months pa. Kasi may
Correct.
delay talaga yung effects sa death rates.
Correct.
Okay? So in the death rate, we know that the vaccines have practically no effect. Why? Because those people who were sick in March, they had not been vaccinated. Correct?
Okay. Correct.
Okay? Why do we know that? Because today, April 29, it's only 9.2%. So hindi pa sila na-vaccinate.
Only 9.2% of the population was
Exactly.
vaccinated. So you cannot even attribute the lowering of cases to the vaccinations, Doc Iggy. Yun ang sagot mo kay Dr.
Yeah.
Ethel Pineda.
Exactly.
Yeah. Look at this. Ito yung sinasabi ni Manolo. This is March 12, March 11. Tignan nyo, going up. March 9. Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yes.
Then they started using
Pababa na.
ivermectin. When did they use ivermectin, Manolo?
March 9.
They started giving it, March 8 is when
March
they
8.
approved it.
So yan ang March 8.
Konting akyat, tapos baba na.
Yeah, and then it went down.
Yung akyat,
Down.
yung akyat, Francis, it's akyat because there's momentum eh. Ang
Correct.
daming may-
Naintindihan natin yan. Naintindihan natin yan. Rollout ng ivermectin, hindi naman kaagad-agad yan eh.
Saka di lang yan, may delay. For example, some of those reported were
but the delay
for the past few days.
the delay of ivermectin is 3 or 4 days. That's it.
Araw lang.
No, I
Which
mean the reporting.
coincides,
The reporting.
and it coincides also with the number of days na you get cured from COVID. Kasi ivermectin kicks about 3rd, 4th day eh. Okay ka na eh. Di ba? Tama.
This one is vaccination. Ito yung vaccination. So Ethel was saying, it's the vaccination that dropped the
So
case.
you tell
ano?
our friend, tell our friend Dr. Ethel that let's talk about it and let's explain it to her.
Ayaw nun.
Kasi look, it went down March 12 pa, di ba? It started to go down March 12. So that's somewhere here. So you tell me, wala pang 500,000 na vaccinated, bumaba na? It takes the second dose for it to work, and then you still wait a few weeks before it works.
The ivermectin has been practically 99.9% responsible for the drop in death rates.
Yes, correct.
In the Czech Republic. That's solely to that. So, and anybody else who will like to discuss logically with us will see to it. So all we're asking our viewers is to practice intellectual honesty.
Yeah.
What is intellectual honesty? Intellectual honesty is when we hear something that is contrary to our preconceived ideas or our preconceived thoughts. And when somebody tells us something which is not like how we normally think, are we honest enough to say, could I be wrong?
Tama.
Am I open to being wrong?
Correct.
So when we explain this graph of the Czech Republic to anybody, we tell them, hang on a minute, please. Just open your mind and look at the figures and now tell me if what we are trying to explain doesn't make sense.
Yun ang, alam mo, isa yun sa gusto kong pag-usapan natin. Yung you have all the figures, Dr. Iggy Bayani. Obviously, you're an engineer, Manolo. Pinag-aralan mo yan, you studied it. And there are people who simply do not get it. And you talk about intellectual honesty or dishonesty. Okay, I was talking to you earlier before the show. And I identified with this case of yours being in a class of LaSalle people, no? You're in the honors class, I am in the semi-honors class of Ateneo also, a high school. So we are the balanced type of people. And you know, you were kicked out of your group. And me, I simply left the group out of frustration. I call it also intellectual dishonesty. Can you explain why people do not see it? Iggy gave me an idea the other day. I'd like to hear your explanation on this.
Okay. Um, what? Why are we incapable of changing our preconceived ideas? Because we have something to lose. Okay. Let's now take a case of a doctor in the Philippines. Okay. A doctor in the Philippines. Everybody's saying mainstream thinking is saying ivermectin doesn't work. Okay. So, am I going to be brave? Am I going to look at the data? Am I going to analyze it? What do I have to lose? What am I saying? Um, it's a question really of our capacity to want to know the truth. Okay, so will I risk my reputation when all of my colleague doctors are doing the other thing? Do I want to be a maverick? Do I want to be like a doc Iggy Agbayani or a doc Landrito who is thinking in a different way, is thinking contrary to what everybody's doing? They're gonna laugh at me. People are gonna think I'm crazy. So that is a natural tendency for people to say, don't talk to me. Now, I'll give an example. Can you imagine if you went up to Dracula and you told him, Dracula, eto pare, oh, holy water, inumin mo. What's he gonna do? Is Dracula gonna drink that? No way. But that's the problem we have today. So when we talk about ivermectin, we are telling people, wait, Dracula, inumin mo to. That's why they cannot take it, because there's too much at stake. And now this is where I'd like to go back to the process of arriving at ivermectin. So I start questioning and I start looking at the response of the governments. I start listening to the tale, because here in Europe they're talking about get yourself immunized. Huh? Get yourself immunized from getting sick. Get yourself immunized from dying. I got immunized from dying, immunized from getting sick. Is there such a thing? Immunity means you're immune, bulletproof, walang talab. Walang talab. So walang talab, you can't get sick. So why are they telling us that we can get sick? And here's the killer. Here's the killer. I start listening to some respected doctors who are saying things that I'm saying, which is, why will I get vaccinated if I won't get full immunity? And I start understanding that what can happen is, because the virus keeps mutating, we can have an ongoing pandemic. We can have a pandemic in a perpetual pandemic. So that's quite a problem. So I hear this doctor say there's a potential here that by vaccinating ourselves we may just be prolonging the agony. And I go, that's it. That's exactly it. But while I'm hearing this, all of a sudden, these doctors change their discourse. They're now saying, get yourself immunized. So I say to myself, how is it possible that some doctors are saying that by getting vaccinated, we are helping prolong the pandemic, and all of a sudden, a few weeks later, I hear the same doctor saying, get yourself vaccinated. They go, something's wrong here. Why has this doctor changed the discourse? Has there been some evidence to prove that the vaccines will cut the transmission that we don't know about? Or are the people behind just too powerful? So that's the part that we don't know. We don't know what kind of pressure our doctors have to toe the line. So there is obviously pressure from from two doctors, so that they toe the line, because not everybody is brave. Not everybody's going to come out and say, "Let's do this. No? Let's fight this." No?
You know, it reminds me of, yeah, it
Add
reminds me,
something.
sige, Doc Iggy.
In the Philippines and most parts of the world, the priority is to give it to doctors and nurses. Did you know that that is the first time it ever happened in history? That the priority for giving vaccination, lalo na for max vaccination, is the doctors and nurses.
Kasi sila yung
You can do that.
mahahawa. Sila yung perceived na mahahawa kaagad kaya binibigay sa
Never
kanila.
happened in history. It never happened.
Okay.
It only happened, kunyari, one region. Okay, before you go there, we'll vaccinate you before you go there. Pero hindi siya ginagawa sa community. There's a reason for that.
Oh, bakit?
You prioritize the ones who will die. Ebola kasi everyone will die. Dito, you prioritize who will die. Most likely. It's 80% elderly and
okay.
sick.
Yeah.
Now, what's so strange? Now, this is what I will tell Manolo. Why then did they do it for doctors?
Marketing.
I saw behavior. Once you get injected and you're a doctor, how can you talk against vaccine?
Oh.
Why would you say, oh, that's bad? Look, you're seeing things. You're seeing a patient die after vaccination. You'll talk about it. And you already had the vaccine. You even show a picture. Oh, look, I just got vax.
On that note, no?
That's a commitment. When you made a small commitment, ang dali ka nang hilahin, and you cannot talk. You know what? Whenever I tell the doctors, my Viber group friends about vaccination, ako, para bang may menopause eh. Lalaki lahat itong mga kaibigan ko, nag-menopause.
Magagalit ang misis ko dyan. Magagalit yung mga misis natin yan. Okay.
Iggy, let me just an incision lang. These doctors that got the menopause, have their voices changed?
Hindi.
There's
Alam mo,
something.
alam mo, it reminds me of the tale, Hans Christian Andersen, the Emperor has new clothes. The whole community was saying the Emperor has new clothes, and they were all like that, saying that, and then it took one boy who just was simply honest and said, it was, di ba? He's naked.
No, really. The problem is, as he was told the other day, the problem is that he's not an infectious disease expert.
Oh, yun. Isa pa
Doesn't
yun.
understand because
Isa pa yun. At saka ikaw rin, Manolo, who are you to talk about it? Yan yung problema mo sa class mo. Who are you? You're just an engineer. Correct?
Listen to this. And I'll tell you something that you're gonna find funny. Okay? There is a beautiful gospel, okay, where Jesus explains that a prophet cannot be respected in his hometown.
Yeah.
Why? Because, it's only the orthopedic orthopedic surgeon who's going to tell us. Me, super infectious disease expert. How's he gonna tell me? I'm the expert here. He's just a bone doctor. In my class, how am I gonna tell a doctor how to think differently? This is the natural explanation as to why there's this, why they're allergic to this, no? But going back to the example earlier of Iggy with this doctor, was it Ethel? I think you said her name was. Talk to her about Zimbabwe. Tell her Zimbabwe. Let's talk about Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe started with the ivermectin on January 28. Do you know why they started on January 28? 2 weeks before that, they were throwing shit at ivermectin. But you know why they started on 28th of January? Because the president lost 3 cabinet ministers to COVID.
Oy.
The president. So he said, tirahin na natin mga gwapo, tirahin na natin. Baka sakali. Okay?
Ah.
So, from January 28, today,
Aha.
they have almost 0 dead.
Oy, baka sa bakuna yan. Baka sa bakuna yan.
Wala pa silang bakuna.
Ah, wala pa.
Wala pa silang bakuna.
Wala
Okay?
pala. Oh.
Hindi lang yan. Hindi lang yan. Alam mo ilan silang, you know how many people get sick there every day?
Oh.
less than 50 persons a day.
Oh. Grabe.
Zimbabwe,
Pero hindi yan
Zimbabwe.
dahil sa ivermectin. Kailangan mo ng clinical trial niyan. Hindi pwede yan.
No, there's one more reason. There's one more reason.
Ayan, nagalit. Nagagalit ka ba, Manolo?
No, there's
Siyempre.
another.
Yung
There's
camera
another
mo.
reason, Francis.
Oh,
If you've seen the interview of Dr. Stone from Zimbabwe,
Oh.
she pointed out to the FLCCC doctor that there's a reason why. Well, I'm putting words in her mouth, but she said in Zimbabwe they have no ICUs and they have no remdesivir. So
Oh.
they were forced to go to ivermectin. Kaya maraming buhay.
So hindi mo rin pala
binibigyan ng
pwedeng
remdesivir.
sabihin dahil sa remdesivir. Wala rin silang ICU.
Oh.
Ay, Manolo. Paano yan? Ano pa ba
Listen to
lusot
this.
yan? Ano pa ba lusot?
listen to this.
Ano?
Not happy with all of this logic that I came across.
But it,
I
you know,
said-
logic has nothing to do with science eh.
That's why. Logic, science precisely is follow the science. The scientist here says ganito. Precisely, science is to question science.
Okay.
Let me explain.
Correct.
Let me explain. Do you
Follow
guys
the
remember?
science, follow the science, but not the scientist.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you guys remember a name, Alexander Fleming? You remember that guy?
Oh, yeah.
Inventor of the vaccine.
Okay.
Mali ba ako?
Microbiology.
Hindi. Not the vaccine. Penicillin.
Penicillin.
Okay.
Oh.
That guy, he was a Scot. He was a Scot, Scot from Scotland.
Mhm.
Yung mga Scot, ibang klaseng utak mo yan.
Mhm.
The Scots, when they talk, nobody understands them. Iba yung English nila.
Okay. Oh.
So medyo, if you talk to a Scot, you go like that, hindi mo maintindihan eh. Hindi mo maintindihan. Anyway, so this guy, how did he discover penicillin? Accidental.
Mm.
Completely accidental. How was ivermectin discovered? Accidental. Okay?
Beside the golf course.
Accidental. And on the earth, meron ponjaps, nakita niya, ibang klase to. Ano ba to? So he starts looking at it.
Okay.
Okay? So he takes it up, he takes it to his colleague in the States, and they make it.
Wait. May nakita siyang pond japs? What do you call it?
Ponjaps is hapon.
Hapon.
O kaya nga, may nakita siyang hapon. Tapos?
No, yung hapon nakita
Yung
ng
ponjaps, ang nakita, he was the one who discovered it in the golf course.
Okay.
Dr. Omura.
Okay?
Si you're talking about ivermectin. Okay, may nakita
Yes,
siyang...
I'm talking about ivermectin. So the guy discovered it by accident. Accident. And it's from the earth. Okay?
Natural.
Okay? Like penicillin. Penicillin is also natural. It's not, it came from there. So, why am I talking about all these things? Our forefathers, when they left Egypt, they went into the desert, into the wilderness. Wala silang sibog. Wala silang pagkain. Okay? But in the mornings, every day, may mana on the ground.
From heaven.
Okay?
Mana from heaven.
From heaven. Okay?
Okay.
What did that manna give them? Sustenance. It gave them everything. What is ivermectin? From heaven.
Ayun, natural eh. Kaya nga sinabi niya, it's a gift. Sino ba nung quotation yon, Mari? It's a gift from, sino nagsabi nun? He described it.
Dr. Omura. He said the gift from nature, si Dr. Omura.
Oh, it's a gift of nature, sabi niya.
So we have a gift from nature. Okay? So that is our tool
Sige mo na,
Nakamute ka, Doc
Iggy.
Iggy.
Nakamute ka, Doc Iggy. Yan.
Exactly ni Dr. Nomura, this is a gift to us from the earth.
From the
Yeah.
earth.
A
There we go.
splendid gift. Splendid gift to us from the earth. Medyo hindi takad kasi I'm sure he said it in Japanese.
It's a splendid gift from the earth.
From the earth.
From the earth.
Now,
Hi.
Ay.
Para
You
si
guys have been
Tojo,
watching
para Tojo.
you fellas have been watching too many Yakuza movies. Anyways, going back to this thing. Now, when you study now as men of science,
Mhm.
when you start studying this thing, okay, you cannot be surprised. Where am I going? Because of my research and all of my noise, etc., I come across a doctor
Mhm.
from UP, Diliman, summa cum laude. Okay? So we're not talking of a small-time doctor. We're talking of a smart doctor. And this doctor went to the States, did a residency in the States. She was there for a little bit, and she took up a master's in pharmacology.
Mhm.
Okay? What did this person do? Because of her knowledge, she said, this ivermectin has to work. Imposibleng hindi gumana to. Okay?
Mhm.
Bakit? Because her intellectual honesty forced her to look at it like that. This has to work. What did she do? She took the ivermectin and she started giving it to people.
Mhm.
Some were very sick, some were super sick, some were severe. Okay? What's her track record? 100%.
Yeah.
Lahat sila buhay. Isa lang ospital.
Okay.
So-
Yeah.
So the question is, pwedeng samba yun? Oh, pwedeng samba yun. Of course,
Mm.
pwedeng samba.
Anecdotal kung tawagin.
They were gonna get well. Of course they're gonna get well, no? But what are the chances of that happening?
Multiple
That's-
times. Different doctors, many doctors. It happened multiple times.
Now that you're talking about that,
Uh-huh.
Francis, because of reading, I started reading about this group of hospitals in the Dominican Republic.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and I start reading they publish a paper and they say that they've treated 3,099 people
Mhm.
with ivermectin, and 90%, 99% of the people who were treated with ivermectin, the symptoms that they had, the COVID symptoms that they had, were eliminated in 5 days.
Ayun.
99%. So when you look at that, you go, how is that possible? But this same doctor, the president of that group of hospitals,
Uh-huh.
I read later on that he claimed that in a period of 8 months, they treated almost 7,000 patients,
You know?
and the cure rates were still the same.
Correct. Alam mo ano Manolo, Iggy, everything that Manolo, yung kinikwento ngayon ni Manolo, is so close to the experiences of all the doctors that we talk to, including Iggy Agbayani, including Dr. Landrito. Turn on your mic, Iggy. Including
Basta
Dr.
ginamit.
Landrito. Ha?
As long as they used it,
Correct.
yun ang kinikwento ni Manolo. If
Kaya
you
nga.
used it,
Kaya nga hindi yung experience niya, an experience mo, experience ni Landrito, experience ni Dr. Villa. Marivic Villa is a doctor in in Florida whose patients are elderly.
FLCC, the whole FLCC group is using.
Yeah.
Kaya nga,
So everything you say is the same. I don't we have 5 minutes left. 6
so
minutes
here's-
left. Sige.
Here's the question.
Mhm.
Why is it, therefore, that everybody is against ivermectin? Why?
Okay, why?
Okay? It's very simple. Because the drug has antiviral properties, has anti-inflammatory properties. Meaning that if you're sick in the beginning or medyo severe na or very severe, it still works. It can get you out. It can still save your life. So it's really curative. But that's not the whole story. The other part of the story is how effective it is at preventing infection. Because it prevents infection, if we all live in the same house, and let's say that Iggy gets sick, okay, and he starts taking ivermectin for his sickness, and we start taking it just for protection, guess what, guys? We ain't gonna get sick. None of us will get sick. Okay? So what is it, therefore? Ivermectin is superior to the vaccines. That's the reason why they don't
And-
want it to happen.
Because
And
we bought so many vaccines already.
Manolo is perfectly right. He forgot one thing.
What?
Ivermectin is cheap.
Mm.
It's
Oh.
dirt cheap that it will kill the rest of the prevention, and
So-
it's gonna outcompete them, and therefore they want it dead.
So therefore, ivermectin is really God's gift to us, because ivermectin will allow us to eradicate the virus for good. So, men of goodwill, we have to come out and we have to make bona fide ivermectin available for everyone. That is our task and that is our goal. And if we do this in the Philippines, we would have done the world a favor.
Right.
So, men of goodwill, people who have shared kwentong kutsero sa kanto, we have to come out and we have to do it.
Yun. We have to fight for it. Any last words,
right.
Dr. Agbayani? Mari.
Si Doc Iggy muna.
So, Doc Iggy.
You've said everything. Thank you, Manolo, for joining us, and you're such an inspiring Filipino.
Okay. Thank you very much, Iggy. Mari, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say, since you're the head of membership, I'm sure you're going to offer an honorary membership to my cousin.
Not only honorary, he's a bona fide member. He has to pay
There we go.
1,500 pesos to me. Joke lang on the fee. Joke lang on the fee, Manolo. Kwento lang yon. Pero as a head of the membership committee and by the powers vested in me by the president of CDCPH, Benigno Agbayani Jr., you are hereby proclaimed member of the concerned doctors and citizens of the Philippines. Don't leave. While we might end this program now, mga kasama sa Flatten the Fear at DZRH, we are the CDCPH. I'm sorry, boss.
Take two.
Take two. DZRJ, the superior station. 8 Gs. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat for listening to us. And tomorrow again, we'll be back for another show. So thank you and goodbye. Guests, don't leave. We will continue the show and have a little bit of talk. Thank you very much. Tech, goodbye.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.